What's up, guys? Back again already. Okay, I lied a little bit when I said that I was going to be moving into replays of Brea games. Truth be told, I have been playing a bunch of Brea games, but it's so rare when you get good contested matches against the gamut of opponents you normally meet in the, I guess it's sort of de facto casual commander room. It's hard to get matches of 1v1 using the multiplayer ban list because most people just don't take the format very seriously, and you can put that you're competitive in the tagline hoping that you'll get competitive matches, but you'll find that everybody's definition of what's competitive is quite different. So unfortunately, I'm just sort of resigned to playing my full strength decks against whatever random things I run into, and occasionally get good matches, and sometimes those matches turn into good replays, not always. This, however, is quite the opposite because I actually played, this is the second match I played against this tightest time guy. And he's running this commander, Emmara, Soul of the Accord, a green-white commander I've never actually seen before. I don't know if it's fairly new. But anyway, yeah, and it's certainly not top tier on the pantheon of green-white commanders when you consider that it competes with Gaddock Teeg, just about the most evil green-white commander you can possibly imagine, as well as Captain Sisay. So I haven't seen him too much, but from what I've seen in the first game we played where I was using the Brea deck, and it felt very unfair, and I basically just did gross things to him with Mana Drain and Gilded Lotus and some other stuff. But he's playing a token-based deck, and I thought it might make for an interesting matchup against my budget Nin deck. This is the 2DH Nin deck, which is actually not 2DH anymore. For those who don't know, that means it's $2 Highlander, where all the cards in the deck, with the exception of the commander, which can be $5, are $2 or under on the MTG stocks price list. And I actually put this deck together, and I've made a few adjustments, but I put the deck together some years ago, back when everything was indeed under $2, and because the cards are constantly in flux, sometimes cards creep up over $2 and then they fall back down below. Like, for example, Forbid could go back in the deck because Forbid is now under $2 again after being over $2 for a while. And there's probably a few other things in here that are just a bit above $2. I don't really follow the format that closely and just play this deck when I need to sort of handicap myself. And this seemed like a perfect opportunity for it. And oh my God, do we have a game coming. This is one of the definitely top 5 games of the year so far for me. And so sit back, relax, and enjoy. Game against tightest time. Budget Nin versus Emmara, Soul of the Accord. Here we go. All right, so opening hand, 7 cards, no lands, no brainer mulligan. He's actually going first this game too, so at least that makes the mulligan hurt a little bit less, provided I draw some land in my second draw. My second draw yields an Izzet Guildgate and no other mana and a Fellwar Stone. And unfortunately, against a green-white deck, this Fellwar Stone is basically useless, so I need to throw this back for a 5. God, this card's so good against him, but unfortunately I can't keep it. And I get... Well, the good news is I got another land. Unfortunately, it's a land that you literally cannot play by itself. I mean, I guess you can, but it doesn't do anything. So I have to ship this back. And going down to 4 cards against a green-white deck, even though it's obviously not top tier, but token space, lots of enchantments, it's going to be an uphill battle. Hopefully I at least get a 4-card hand I can keep. It's one of the things I really, really love so much about the new mulligan rule is that you can mulligan down to 3 or 4 and actually keep a hand that has some sense of cohesion. And that is exactly what this is. Basically, it has mana, and at that point, that's all I'm really looking for. So I've got this 7-card hand. Electrolyze seems like it's super powerful. Merchant Scroll, a little slow. Future Sight, definitely too slow. And that means I'm going to... And I got to throw back one of these lands, and certainly the worst of those lands is the Mystic Sanctuary. So that's going to be my hand, is Electrolyze, Highland Lake, Swiftwater Cliffs, and more mana. And I will keep. And it looks like he actually mulliganed twice too, so that at least gives me some degree of parity. God, my hand is just so small. So small, so sad. But what can you do? Yeah, and they're coming to play tap lands with Wayfarer's Bauble, even worse. But he doesn't have a turn 1 play, so I'm not going to be terribly far behind initially. Fire Ice. All right, excellent. That's a really, really good card to draw against the tokens deck, and it gives me a 2-mana solution to his commander before it can attack me, provided that I'm able to draw an untapped land. And look, I'm at 31, thanks to the power of Swiftwater Cliffs. All right, and he does have green and white. Emmara, okay, that's fine. It's funny, I'd almost prefer him to have Gaddock Teeg in this matchup, honestly, given the way my hand is. I have a lot more creatures in this version of Nin the Pain Artist, including the Titans and stuff, so I have more ways to interact if Gaddock Teeg is in play. Not as many big mana artifacts, and certainly, well, there's a Planeswalker. Jace, Architect of Thought. Normally I wouldn't be too happy to see this, particularly with my mana situation, but this card is really, really strong against tokens. Notice that top ability, which you don't see come into play too often. Obviously it gets activated a lot because you're leveling up Jace, but the -1 ability doesn't tend to factor in that much in Commander games, but it can be really, really incredible. Although it's interesting that it interacts with all of your opponent's creatures, so when they attack each other, their guys get shrunk too. It's pretty cool. Unfortunately, I did not draw land, so I just have to play this garbage Wayfarer's Bauble with no ability to use it even. Oh man, okay. Well, I gotta just kind of hope he has nothing to go with his guy. And unfortunately, he has Cultivate, so now he's got 5 mana to my 2. And a lifelink soldier as well. Okay. Well, I'm really, really hoping to draw a land here, just a regular land, so I can electrolyze away the Emmara, draw a card, and buy myself time. And I draw Cold Steel Heart. This is an example of a kind of a hand where the fact that I'm playing all these crappy 2-mana artifacts that come into play tap just really, really punishes me. And I actually think that based on the amount of times I've played this deck, that I probably have too many 2-mana artifacts in the deck. There's so many other good 2-mana artifacts you can play in regular Commander that don't come into play tapped. I am using the red-white or the red-blue Talisman, which is under $2. Talisman of Creativity is in here. I have Is It Signet, and I think I have Mind Stone, Prismatic Lens also. But I have a bunch of come into play tap land or artifacts, including Cold Steel Heart, which I actually don't think is under $2 anymore, inexplicably, as well as the diamond, the Sky Diamond too. And well, in this situation, I've got a couple of different choices. So I can use Fire Ice to remove Emmara, but remove Emmara, but he just casts Cultivate. He's got plenty of mana. He's just going to replay it for a turn, and I could also cast Cold Steel Heart. That guarantees puts a mana into play, but he's green-white. Green-white is like the artifact-killing color. And if I play Cold Steel Heart and he has something like Return to Dust, which he could easily, be in the range of what he'd be playing, he'd kill Cold Steel Heart, I'd lose the bauble, 2 mana sources, and really have no way to get back into the game. So I can't play the Cold Steel Heart right now. It's just too risky. Firing this thing just doesn't really accomplish anything in the long term. I feel like that's just a, play not to lose play. And I got to kind of just develop mana and hope that my deck will deliver stuff. Because if you've seen this Nin deck in action or the other one, the way you win the game generally is you sort of weather the storm early, you use your commander to draw into answers, and then you use those answers to solve the board before your life total runs out. So I got to take that route, and that means just sacking Wayfarer's Bauble. I'm just going to do that now in case he's got like even Mind Sense or something to wreck me. There's no reason not to do it now. Other than maybe him enchanting this and me needing to fire it or something in response. But I just feel like it's just unlikely to happen. And I know that one of the cards in his hand is land anyway. All right. Oh god, Nissa, Voice of Zendikar. In one place where the red-blue Nin deck, the budget deck, really, really struggles is against Planeswalkers, because I do have more creatures, but with such mediocre counterspells and not running things like Cyclonic Rift and stuff, because it's way over budget, you really, really can suffer against Planeswalkers that get out of control. And this is a super out of control Planeswalker. God, all the abilities are really relevant, particularly that second one though, because it can just build the pressure so fast. And of course, if he's able to get to the ultimate, that ruins the containment plan too. So it's just all sorts of bad. And he plays Flower over Flourish. Kind of interesting, but he plays Flower and goes and gets another land. And I get attacked here for 3, and he gets another token. And I think honestly, him putting a token into play was almost a little bit greedy here. I think that probably, if I were him, I think I would have probably just gone and attacked and then used the Nissa, Voice of Zendikar to pump that to 3/3, 2/2, and 2/2. I think that just getting a bunch of board presence is probably better than just making a 0/1 plant, although he did get another counter on there, and now he's got 2 activations of the ability. Oh my god, Sky Diamond, that's just so horrible. Like, look how slow I am this game. And if this was a come into play untapped mana artifact, I certainly would have played it and then played the Cold Steel Heart as well. But given the fact that both of these come into play tapped, I really can't realistically play either of these cards until I can play them both in the same turn, because I just need to try to hold the board a little bit longer, given how multiplicative the Nissa's -2 ability gets with the ability to make extra creatures every turn. So I'm going to just electrolyze away the Emmara here while he's fairly tapped out as well and can't protect it. I'm hoping to just draw a land. I just got to draw something. All right, awesome. There's an island at least. So I'm rewarded for that play and not totally punished. It does slow him down quite a bit. And notice if he had pumped his Emmara up that turn, I would not have been able to make that play, and it would be a 3/3. So he plays a Temple of Plenty, and scrying, I'm not sure where he puts it, and he plays Squirrel Nest. Goddamn right. And it's just an endless flood of guys. There's really Squirrel Nest, very problematic against my deck, given the fact that I'm not running Strip Mine and have very few bounce ways. I don't have any way to bounce land actually at all, and no way to destroy lands at all. And so this is going to cause long-term problems. And he probably has Earthcraft in his deck as well, just as for the instant kill combo. All right, taking some damage from that 0/1 plant. Okay. Well, he did not replay his commander, which is a bit of a blessing actually. That I feel like that buys me a little bit more turn than the Squirrel Nest. Okay, Island is very good. Okay, so I had the option to play Jace, but playing Jace I feel doesn't really accomplish a great deal other than just forcing his hand with Nissa, but he's got so many creatures in play already. If he uses the minus ability on Nissa and I play the Jace, even if I minus everything, it goes to 5. These things won't hit me for any damage, but this is 1, 2, 3. So the Jace shrinks down already down to just I guess what is that, 2 loyalty? Yeah, it takes 3 damage and drops to 2 loyalty. So its utility runs out really fast. I don't feel like the Jace really accomplishes much. I certainly am not going to play it and just minus the ability since it's so trivial for him to kill it. And with that in mind, I decide that the best course of action here is to just play Nin. And I'm thinking maybe he'll go for the -2 ability this turn, and I can fire away these 2 soldiers and save myself a ton of damage and board presence as well, which is why I'm not playing either one of these stupid come into play tapped mana artifacts, which I wish came into play untapped, because then I'd be able to play 1 and use the Fire Ice. So got to just gamble here that he feels he has enough creatures in play that he wants to put counters on, because he could make a Squirrel Nest token and then just buff the whole team, which is a lot of counters. I mean, what is that? That's like 6 +1/+1 counters. It's incredible value for just -2 loyalty on a 5 loyalty Planeswalker. Oh, and he could even cast his commander and then do that. And I feel like he gets a little bit greedy here. He plays this card, Ulvenwald Mysteries, which seems very strange to me in his deck given the preponderance of tokens that I've seen, because it only triggers off of tokens. Like, this card should just be Fecundity or something. Maybe he doesn't know about it, but it's a very slow version of it. Yeah, non-token creatures. Like, dude, your entire, everything but your commander that I've seen is tokens. How good is this card really? So either way, I'm going to take the opportunity, and this was premature certainly, because it's non-token creatures. So I jumped the gun here and just burned both of those guys away. I was hoping that he would minus his board. But he just makes another plant, continues to pump up the Nissa, and he's down to 1 card in hand, and this is at 6, and the situation is getting dire as hell. He does not attack. All right, I drew another land. Okay, so on this turn, I can finally play my Jace, and I'm actually doing this now because I honestly want him to minus, because this is getting too close to 7. I feel that I can probably deal with a board full of growing dorks better than I can deal with him drawing, what is this, 7 cards off of his Planeswalker. That's just too scary. So I'm going to minus his whole board and play one of these garbage artifacts. I'm going to name red in case I lose one of my red sources and I can't cast a double red spell. Plus he might chase after it thinking that it's I need triple red for something. Down to 1 card in hand, but I've still got Nin active. God, it gives me at least something to do. He goes up to 7. Oh, yeah. Okay. This is very scary. Oh, lordy. Ovia Pashiri. So he's finally played another non-token card. He actually had this in the last game, and it was totally inconsequential. This game, however, ridiculous. Pay 5 mana to get like some completely insane... X is equal to the number of creatures you control. That's very interesting, actually. It allows me to kill it with a sweeper, which is pretty cool. All right, he plays Emmara, makes another token. Oh my god, like how deadly is this board now? The question is he going to ultimate next turn, or he's going to go 1 more turn and be a little bit greedy? It'll be interesting to see what happens. All right, Mountain. All right, so it's time to obviously to do a little mini fact or fiction and hope that I get a bounce spell. Like, I'm just thinking I need to draw bounce right now. I don't have too many of them that can bounce Planeswalker. I've got Into the Royal and Blink of an Eye, and I think that's it. I'm not running. I have Repulse in my deck, but I don't have anything like Capsize or something. So got to hit one of those or he's going to draw a million cards. Yeah, he's going to draw a minimum of 7. And I get Repulse, Island, Disciple. Well, that's really interesting. Interesting to see how he splits them. He makes a split, and this is a obvious no-brainer. As much as I want to prevent this thing from making tokens, the Disciple is just way too powerful right now, given the fact that it does give me some ability to tap big creatures to hold the board and potentially counterspell something big if he does draw something large. So I'm going to just play this, and it gives me a shooting target as well. All right, do your worst, Cletus. See what happens. Let's see if he's greedy or not. What's he going to do? Oh my God, so wonderful. I'm so glad. When I see him make another plant token, I just breathe a giant sigh of relief. This buys me so much potential time to draw a bounce spell to prevent him drawing a million. But God, the board is getting scary, and now he uses his guy. Yep, that's an 11/11 token summoned for 5 mana. Now, the only bonus, of course, is that this thing is sort of similar to the token that Urza makes, in that it's constantly checking your total number of creatures. So if you kill all the creatures in play, this thing just dies along with it. And so that gives you a nice solution. You can just basically cast a 2 damage Wrath that will kill an 11/11. But he passes his turn. Well, actually, doesn't quite pass. He's obviously not going to attack yet. He's not interested in killing off Jace. So end of turn. I'm going to shoot Disciple. Come on, deck. Deliver the goods. Just one card this time, though. Yes! Oh my God, into the Royal. Incredible. So lucky to draw that. And the one turn where he got a little bit greedy, it buys me all the time now. Okay, Island. And it gives me the ability to get another card in the graveyard. So I can potentially, if you think about this, it's 3 to cast Nissa. That leaves him with 5 additional mana, and that's 3 instants. So I can actually counter the Nissa on the way back out. Now, that doesn't solve everything, but it does solve at least the biggest problem by far. I'm going to have to deal with the 11/11, but I've got some time against that, given the fact that I can tap it with Disciple, and I do have to deal with this too. Phyrexian Processor and a 2 land. So we'll see what he does here. So he splits them like that. And Processor's pretty interesting. I mean, I could potentially play it with my 8th land and start making, I don't know, like 10/10 minions or 15/15 minions or something. But given the pace that he's able to make creatures right now, the Construct's going to just outstrip that anyway. And Mystic Sanctuary means that I get an extra use out of Into the Royal, which can allow me to bounce Construct if I need to. It also gives me the ability to tap stuff and potentially get Electrolyze or Fire Ice back. So when he makes that split, I'm just going to do that. And so this is a really, really tough turn. I'd be very curious to know other Nin aficionados, what they would do in this situation. So I'm going to give you a second, if you're a fan of this deck, to peruse the board state and think about what course of action you might want to take. Think about it. Think about it for a little bit. All right, if you come up with your decisions, time's up. So I don't foresee a long-term strategy right now based on the way the board state is. I mean, obviously, I'm going to need a sweeper at some point, but if this thing can make 11/11s or 12/12s or 13/13s every single turn, then I'm going to get overwhelmed almost immediately. Like, there's almost no long-term way that I can deal with this. I mean, I can tap down creatures for a couple of turns, but I don't feel that with this thing live and active in play that I can really deal with it. So that gives me a few other roundabout options. I have the ability to play the Mystic Sanctuary and put Electrolyze back on top of the deck, or Fire Ice, and then use Nin to shoot Disciple to draw into several cards, including that, and burn this thing away, as well as potentially bounce the Nissa. And I think about this for a little while, and I realized that I think that probably a better strategy, just given like the relative strength of our two decks, this is something you always have to consider when you let your opponent draw cards. I feel like my cards are on average a lot stronger than his because he has so many sort of weird token generators and interactions like that. And I decide that letting him draw 2 off of the Avia using my commander is probably okay. It does put 2 more cards into his hand, but the chances that those cards are really impactful, I think, is fairly low. And if any of them are big non-creature spells, I can actually just counter them with the Disciple anyway for free from the graveyard. So with that in mind, I decide I'm going to use Nin to shoot this down, and I'm going to use Into the Royal to bounce the Nissa. And the reason why I can't do a larger Nin activation is because right now, because of his mana, and the fact that I'm going to have 3 instants in the graveyard. So that does give him a token, which isn't too big of a deal, and it does give him a clue as well. All right, so I play a land, and I'm not actually going to bounce anything back yet because I want these in the graveyard. And my plan is that because of the way that his mana is, obviously I have to cast Into the Royal here. This drops me down to just 3 mana. I obviously can't kicker it at all. But if you notice, I'll now have 3 instants in the graveyard, which gives me the ability, if he does play the Nissa, he's only got 5 mana untapped, and I can actually use Disciple 3 times. If he hasn't drawn a land, and he does have a lot of cards in hand, but if he doesn't have a land, or if it's coming to play tap land, I can counterspell, or I can use the Disciple 3 times, counter, 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 and that will actually keep the Nissa out of play and cost him his entire turn as well. So I decide that there's just too many risks to letting him have this thing out. Even if I bounce it, he has enough mana to replay the Nissa and then use the ability on Avia. There might have been some other ways to do this. I mean, I could take the risk of him recasting Nissa right away, and then I make him pay 2. He does that, and then he can't activate Avia. But I feel like that risk is just too high, and this feels like the safest play to me. Okay, so we're gonna head back to his turn. He's got 6 cards in hand now, and there's the land, unfortunately, that just wrecks me. And I fully expected him to just replay his Nissa. I don't think that he realizes what Disciple of the Ring does. So he plays Anointed Procession, which is a bit like Doubling Season, but only for tokens. And I do not care about that at all, given the fact that it just means that he can make some more squirrels. I mean, I kind of feel like I'm going to have to just try to win this game with the Sweeper anyway. And there are a few in the deck. I have Earthquake and Magmaquake as the 2 primary ways that I can kill all this stuff. He plays Honor the Pure. Okay, well, you've got like two white creatures in play. That's not very scary. And he goes to attack step. Oh, actually, no, that's right. He puts Throne of the God Pharaoh on the stack now. At the beginning of the end step, each opponent loses life equal to the number of tapped creatures you control. Holy shit. All right, well, that would deal like 10 damage per turn to me every single turn until I draw a Sweeper, so that gets countered. Unfortunately, it only cost me 1 card from the graveyard since he's used all of his mana so far. And I don't feel like taking 11 here, so I'm going to use one of my precious instants to keep this thing tapped. And now, you can't really attack into anything. I've got free reign for a turn. All right. Blink of an eye. Wow. I mean, come on. It's just like, it's contrived. It's so unbelievably lucky to draw the 2 blue bounce spells that I just talked about right off the top. But sometimes you got to get lucky to win, and you have to set yourself up into a position to get lucky. And you notice I used Jace's Brainstorm ability twice to dig deeper into my deck and use the Nin on the Disciple as well. So I dug deep enough into the deck to draw the solutions, which is exactly how this deck succeeds. All right, first things first. I'm going to shrink all of his guys, play the Mystic Sanctuary, and I'm going to put the Into the Royal back on top. And obviously this makes me vulnerable to the Nissa. I don't have any instants at all anymore if he replays it, but I feel like that's the least of my concerns. I still have, gigantic 11-11 problems, and I'm probably just going to have to draw into either a Theft spell, or I'm going to have to draw into one of those Quakes to really stabilize here. That's kind of my only chance, so I've got to just deal with the Nissa. So he does play the Nissa here, and I fully expect that he's going to just be pumping the whole board. So in response, I've got to draw some cards, and the question is how many? And I think about the number. Because my deck is, junky 2DH deck, I have a lot of 3-mana counters, and it feels right to me that this is exactly the right number to draw, which is exactly 5 cards. It gives me the opportunity to draw a 3-mana counter to stop this. Yes, I'm going to get smashed for a bunch of damage by at least the 11-11, but better than nothing. And in fact, if I don't draw a counter spell, then I can use Blink of an Eye to bounce something, and then I can tap down the construct with the card from the graveyard as well. So let's see what Nin can deliver. Draw 5. Come on, deck. I believe in you. Look at that. Frost Titan, Insane to Lockdown Squirrel Nest, Control Magic, Repeat Creature, and Magmaquake on top of in the top 5. Utterly unbelievable. So incredible to draw that. Now I don't even care about Nissa. So insane. All right, he's tapping some more mana, and he cast Tolsimir Wolfblood. Quite neat in his deck, given all the token creatures. It does make the board very big and scary, but I've got multiple instants to handle that. Now keep in mind, Jace used his ability too, so all this stuff is going to be shrunk. So I wait for him to go inside of his attack step, and I notice he did not put counters on anything. I feel like this would have been the turn for sure for him to just buff the whole board, but he did not do that. And that allows me to bounce Tolsimir, shrinks all of his guys down, tap down the construct. And he looks at his board state. He's got a bunch of 1/1s. I guess he's got 6 1/1s and 3/3 and so on. And he goes to declare an attack. He's attacking with all the plants too for some reason. So it would have been the reason to use your Nissa's minus ability, I think. He's declining to attack with all of his little guys here. And then all of these -1 attack power go on the stack, and his whole team just shrinks down. And this thing is going to come crashing into the Disciple and get blown out. And I mean, he is so screwed here. If you think about it, I mean, basically, yeah, the blowout is coming completely. All of these things are coming in. I'm going to just block this. He gets some lifelink soldiers, and I'm going to untap. And I will probably cast Blink of an Eye to get an instant or sorcery into the graveyard. Actually, I might just use Jace to get something into the graveyard, which will allow me to pump the Disciple up to 4, up to 5 health. And then I'm going to Magma Quake for 4, which, assuming that he's plussed Nissa, will kill his entire board and leave him with basically just a, he'll get like a token off this thing. And that's basically it. And he's got just a Tolsimir in his hand, which I'll steal or lock down with Control Magic or Frost Titan. So all those triggers resolve. My opponent thinks for a little while and concedes the game. You'll notice his clock is no longer running. Neither of the clocks is running, so the game is ended. And we win it. Absolutely insane game. So far behind at the beginning, facing this ridiculous green-white army. And the Nin deck did what the Nin deck does, which is just bit by bit, piece by piece, build mana, handle the board state, hold the ground, draw solutions using the commander, and find a way out and a way to victory. And he didn't get to see the ultimate coup de grace from Magma Quake, but that was going to be one of the most blowout Magma Quakes in history. Sure, I guess it would kill off Jace, Architect of Thought, so I'd make sure to brainstorm him or do the Fact or Fiction with him first. But holy shit, what a game, guys. So glad the replay cooperated. So glad to get this one into the archives. And yep, almost 27 minutes long. Hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see some more budget 2DH Nin games, let me know and I'll look around. I'll hunt around for good opponents for that. But as long as this quarantine is going to continue, I'm going to be playing more Magic and I'll have more games for you guys soon. Take care, everyone. See you later.